let's start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who finished 10-7 last year. I think the biggest thing when you talk about the Buccaneers is Baker Mayfield at quarterback and his resurgence to being the type of player that we'd hoped he'd be coming out of college. It took 4 teams and 7 seasons for Baker to really figure it out after being drafted in 2018 by the Cleveland Browns. And he's developed really into one of the league's best QBs. He's a top 10 QB for sure. He's also a great fantasy football QB. Kept me in the running for most of the year last year when he wasn't even my top pick at QB. So ended up picking Dak Prescott. And that him going down, I needed a savior, and Baker was there for me. But he has solidified himself as face of the franchise for this team in just 2 seasons since replacing Tom Brady under center. He's got 2 NFC South titles. He's also got 69 touchdown passes, which are the most in the NFL across two seasons. He's also made head coaches out of a couple of coordinators who only worked with him for 1 season. Talk about Dave Canales now in Carolina and Liam Cohen now getting the head coaching position in Jacksonville. But he's definitely recreated himself and been able to have a lot of success in the NFL. Led the NFL in touchdown passes with 41 led the NFC in touchdown passes with 41. Only Joe Burrow threw more. And Baker also completed 71.4% of his throws. And I got to say, I love this wide receiver room with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, and now their first-round pick from Ohio State being Emeka Ibuka. I mean, I'd give them the best chance to win this division, obviously, just from recent years and having success, but also what we're seeing from Baker, and now he's got just this loaded wide receiver room.
Yeah, if you recall, so yeah, they went 10-7 last year. They started off 4-6, but it was kind of a weird 4-6 where they won at Detroit during that time. I think they beat Philadelphia too, and they kind of went on a weird losing streak, but they're still they lost to Kansas City and San Francisco before San Francisco fell apart. But close games, and then the back half of their schedule really opened up. Like, it was much easier than the first half, and they took advantage of that. They went 6-1 after their bye week. Obviously got to 10-7, and didn't make it to the divisional round like they did the previous year. But Jaden Daniels just did what he did, and that was one of the better playoff games of the year that doesn't get talked about enough. I thought that was a pretty entertaining game, that Commanders and Buccaneers playoff game. But I think this offense, especially adding Ibuka from Ohio State, it's borderline Super Bowl caliber now. Definitely conference champion caliber. I mean, the running backs are good too. Bucky Irving's really flashed in his rookie year, and then Rashad White's pretty good running back too to have, because he showed some promise the year before that. And Baker's he's finally played like he did that 1 year in Cleveland, that one successful year he had in Cleveland, and then everyone assumed he was a bust after he started sucking. But then no, he's found some sustained success here in Tampa. And if this team is obviously not in the top tier, like Philly and Detroit, but they're not far. They always play those teams close. They play the teams close, and I think it's their defense. They have some good names on their defense, like their run defense is pretty good. Vita Vea is one of my favorite interior guys to watch in the league. But their secondary was not very good last year. I believe they gave up the fourth most passing yards last year, and they lost. They did lose Antoine Winfield, who's a really good player last year. I think that was a big impact. But they addressed it in the draft. After they drafted Ibuka in the first round, they added to their secondary in the second and third rounds. If their defense shows improvement, I think they're capable of making it to the NFC title game. If especially if like another team slipped up, because like I said, they're not that far behind. They probably end up being the worst division winner in the NFC, but it's not that big of a gap between them and everyone else.
What do you think of Todd Bowles as a head coach in this league? He's a bit on the quieter side. He's not a big rah-rah coach, and I don't even really see him as this great schemer offensively or defensively. What is he?
Yeah, he wins. Back to his New York Jets days. Obviously, that team hasn't been to the playoffs since 2010. But if you look, their most successful year, I believe they went 10-6 during that long stretch in the playoffs. He was their coach when they went 10-6, and usually that's enough to get you in the playoffs. But unfortunately, that was one of those years where it wasn't. So if he's able to post that kind of record with that dysfunctional of an organization, I think he deserves more credit. But yeah, I don't know. That is a good point. He's a defensive guy. He did inherit this team with Bruce Arians. Obviously, Baker came in, but he inherited most of this roster. But they haven't nosedived at all. Like, they've stayed afloat. That last year with Brady wasn't very good. They still won the division, but they've been better than that even after Brady. So a lot of that does go to the players, but I think Todd Bowles does deserve some credit for keeping the ship afloat.
Yeah. I'm seeing this line for them at 9.5. It's a perfect line for a division that you could win the division with 9 wins. What are you feeling here?
They're pretty much the exact same team as last year, so I'm going to go over, and they're going to be about 10-7 again. It helps that their division's weak. Strength of schedule, 18th.
What's the NFC South teams looking like for strength of schedule?
Yeah, Buccaneers obviously have the hardest because they were division winners last year, but it's only 18th. Falcons, 19th. Falcons 20th, Panthers 28th, and Saints have the second easiest schedule in the NFL. So it helps when you play each other, but they play the AFC East. So Buffalo was the only team with a winning record from that division, and the NFC West, where no one dominated. Like, pretty much all those teams were kind of around 500. Rams were a little higher, and 49ers were a little lower. So no one, not like the NFC North. So yeah, it shapes up pretty well. So that's kind of why I'm leaning over for the Buccaneers. Not too much difference. If anything, their differences from last year are better improvements. So I think 10-7 is where they'll be. So I'm taking the over 9.5.
Well, you convinced me. I think I was originally on the under, just because it's hard to trust the team. From this division, you never know what it's going to end up in. Like I said, 9 wins could win you the division and be fine. But I like it. I like going over on the 9.5, and we'll see what happens this season for them.
I don't know if anyone said that, but yeah, they've won this division 4 straight years, so they're looking for a 5-peat.
Yeah.
So I mean, they kept the same formula, and as long as you're not messing with winning, I think it's sustainable. So yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think this division I mentioned that it was probably one of the best divisions in football at one point, and now it's like it's hard to name some of the coaches. Like, you kind of forget about some of them. But yeah, let's move on to the Atlanta Falcons, who finished last season at 8-9, and the biggest story, again, we're going to head to the quarterback position and what happened with Kirk Cousins last season. Was a pretty hot start. Had some pretty fun games against Tampa Bay, against the Eagles.
They started 6-3.
It was incredible.
They swept Tampa in the end. Yeah.
Those Tampa games against Atlanta were a couple of the best games of the schedule the whole year. And then all of a sudden, it just collapsed on Kirk Cousins. He just started playing his worst football we've ever seen him play. And now the keys are being handed over to Michael Penix. And the hope is that with him being a little more under the radar, I feel like, as opposed to the other 5 guys drafted in that 2024 NFL draft, the other 5 QBs, hoping that maybe he can find some success with Atlanta and be maybe a bridge between Michael Vick and Matt Ryan, to be kind of a steady in between of those 2 guys. Can he be the next one for Atlanta?
Well, 25 years old. This is essentially his rookie year. I know he got some playing time at the end of last year, but it wasn't too much. Injury history is the biggest gripe with him. His time at Indiana, filled with injuries. So yeah, you do wonder about that. Makes you wonder what they will do with Kirk Cousins. Given Penix's injury history, Cousins might likely see the field if he's kept on the roster, but who knows how passionate he'll be, because I think he's kind of wanted out of there. But this team's similar to Tampa, where you look at their offense and you see some good names on there, and you're not as good as Tampa, but still pretty good. Playoff caliber, I would say. Obviously, Bijan Robinson really broke out last year. Solid running back. Drake London, really feel like underappreciated wide receiver. And then if Penix is dynamic, I mean, yeah, this could be a really fun offense to watch. Once again, like Tampa, but I think this is worse. Their defense is just full of question marks. Got to give credit to them. They spent 2 first-round picks on edge rushers.
Yes.
I love that. Drafted Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. Odds are one of them are going to hit. If both of them fail, that just suck as a Falcons fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, odds are one of them are going to hit, and just having one edge rusher that makes a difference is huge, especially for a team. I feel like my entire life the Falcons have had a bad defense. Like
they've never had an edge rusher.
Yeah, they never had an edge rusher ever. Like, yeah, they'll have a guy or two, like John Abraham, I remember him.
Or like Babineau.
Babineau, yeah. Guys like that. And they still have decent guys like I feel like if their pass rush does step up, this defense could be decent because I think their secondary's all right with Jesse Bates and AJ Terrell. Issue is if there's nobody coming off the edge to pressure the quarterback, then the secondary is going to suffer no matter how many names you have back there. So yeah, if it's more of the same and neither of those two guys develop this year, this might be another 8 and 9 year. But if they're going to break out and seriously push Tampa to win this division, which I think is possible, they're going to need those guys to step up. Plus, obviously, Penix needs to play he needs to pull like a Bo Nix. I feel like he's a veteran. I know this is kind of a juxtaposition, I guess, is the oxymoron, whatever you say it. A veteran rookie, because that's basically what he is. Oxymoron's the word I was thinking of. Yeah, because most of these rookie quarterbacks, 22, 23 coming into the league. He's 20, just turned 25 in May. But yeah, if he could pull like the game manager, what Bo Nix did his rookie year, I feel like at least do that. Then this team could be, like I said, could be a playoff team.
Yeah, I like it. It'll be interesting to see his progression, given the fact that he's one of the older rookies. Rookies from last year. You mentioned obviously the defense with the edge rushers being drafted. I love the fact that they got those guys and the fact that they picked up Jeff Ulbrich as defensive coordinator, who got a lot of attention as being an awful head coach in New York, but what he did with that defense was very impressive. And you give him those kind of edge rushers, I think he can do a lot with that. Him and Morris were with the Falcons during the Dan Quinn era, and so they've worked together before. So I think that'll be very cohesive. And I think there's high hopes in Atlanta for this team, and I think it all kind of rests on Penix's shoulders, whether he can get it done or not. What are you seeing for the line for this team? I didn't even check it.
I think I saw 7.5, but that may have changed. I view this team as anywhere from 7 to 10 wins, no less, no more. So if it is 7.5, I would go over because there's more. There's a higher chance because 8, 9, and 10 are obviously bigger than 7.5. So I would go over. But yeah, like I said, if their defense doesn't improve at all, this is going to be the same team. I feel like 7 and 10, 7, 10, 8, and 9, more leaning towards 7 and 10. But I think these edge rush, these new guys are going to show up some. So I will go over. I would see them I would say about 9 and 8. It's weird. This team has won at least. There's been like no postseason success. No one's really cared about them towards the end of the year, but they've won at least 7 games in 4 straight years. Just the perfect definition of mediocrity, especially the Arthur Smith era and obviously last year. So, I don't see them moving away from that. And I'll take the over 7.5 if that's what the line is at. 8.5, I'd be sweating more. I wouldn't. I just stay away from that. But at 7.5, I would take.
Yeah, 7.5. You're not getting a ton of value on the over. It's -140. But I would bet on that. Going over 8.5 would be +115. That'd be a tougher one to swallow. That would be more of a stay away. But at 7.5, I think I'd be banking on this defense improving and the offense being similar to last year, and it not having too much of an improvement with the defense the way it is. The new additions, I'd be betting on that and picking the over for that one.
I'll say one thing I hate. I've said this before. Actually, they have two things I hate. One, they can't really help, but the other, I feel like the NFL shouldn't allow it, is they have an early bye. They have a week 5 bye, which I don't like. I don't like when teams have that.
Hey, the Eagles have an early bye.
to spread it out. I understand why that happens, but they also play a game in Germany, and then they do not have their bye after that. They come home and play a divisional game against Carolina. I hate that. I feel like if you travel all that time, you have a rest week the week after, especially since a lot of teams do. Like, I don't know, play it fair for all the teams, just have your bye week after the international trip, but they do not. So we'll see if they have any hangover there in week 10 and 11, I believe, is that. So yeah.